Welcome back. Microsoft Virtual Academy, Security Fundamentals, Module 3, Understanding Security Policies for exam 98-367.
That's a good intro. I was actually sitting there. I was going to sit there silently and see if you picked up the intro, or if we just sat here in silence waiting for a second.
No,
I picked that right up.
We're a team.
Well, I know.
Christopher, we are, in fact, we're a solid team. In fact, speaking of solid team, Christopher Chapman.
How's it going?
Thomas Willingham, we are here to facilitate security fundamentals knowledge for you, the audience.
It is. Facilitate. That's a good word. Yeah. Pour upon.
Deluge.
Deluge. There you go. Depending on the module.
This one, relatively decent.
Yeah, this one should be a little lighter than.
Yeah.
Then the next one's coming up.
Yes.
We'll warn you ahead of time.
But still exciting. Still exciting. We've got some good demos coming up, and yeah, we got some good stuff coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Module overview. We'll talk about common password attacks and password policies. And we have some demos. Christopher has some demos for you, so should be pretty good to go. Common password attacks. So we have dictionary and brute force attacks. A dictionary attack is an attack containing an extensive list of potential passwords. The attacker then uses those words to just cycle through and see if the passwords match the user ID. More crude form of attack is to just use, and this is referred to as a brute force attack, is to just start with random key combinations and just go all the way through. Like the whole monkey typing the
works
novel.
Of Shakespeare, something like
the
that.
works of Shakespeare, yeah. So kind of the monkey typing works of Shakespeare password attack.
Sort of.
I think that sounds a little more...
It's a good analogy.
Yeah, a little more exciting.
Now, there is one in here that they don't mention.
Yes.
What is it? Any thoughts on any other types of password attacks that aren't mentioned on this slide?
Dictionary, brute force.
Think less technical.
Social engineering, where you look where you're looking over their shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other is, Christopher, I know you are like totally in love with your little Chihuahua Bella, so I'm sure your password is Bella.
Let's try that real quick.
He doesn't have a Chihuahua, and it's not named Bella. That's an example.
But it is a good. That one's actually kind of halfway between dictionary and social engineering, because you're using preset words that pertain to things you know about a person that may be a password.
Yeah, or maybe, Christopher could be a football enthusiast, and maybe his favorite team is the Seahawks, and due to the fact that the Seahawks just won the Super Bowl, maybe his password is Seahawks. So again, kind of that whole... Notice how I got the Super Bowl in there?
Yeah, that actually was pretty impressive, yeah. So now my password is Seahawks win. But
winning.
That is neither here nor there. It is a good, what they don't put on that slide is that social engineering aspect that can actually be combined with at least one of the others, the dictionary, to I don't want to say to successfully guess passwords, but to increase the odds of finding a password.
So physical attacks. We're not talking about somebody all ninja style jumping out and beating on your computer. Anytime your computer can be physically attacked or physically accessed, I'm thinking attack now, by an attacker, that computer's at risk. They can bypass any form of network security, and now they have local access. Local access could include things like a keylogger, where they install a keylogger on your system. And basically what a keylogger is now anything that you type on the computer is buffered into a file, at which point the attacker can come by at a later time and get that file from you. Another thing they could do is, if they have physical access to your system, is possibly use USB and put USB on your computer and possibly run an executable or something. So you want to ensure that attackers don't have physical access to your computer. And this slide also addresses the fact that if you have encryption software that you have to run or have to put a password in. If you put the password in and it's hit by the keylogger, now they have the password for your encryption system. So ensure that people don't have physical access to your systems. Now again, this goes back to you need to have the appropriate level of security for the data that you have. You don't need 5-star security on a scale of 1 to 5 for pictures of your dog or cat.
I feel like these modules may end up leading to somebody out there learning a lot about security, getting into IT for a while, and then starting a company called 5-Star Security. I feel like that might just happen.
That could be a thing.
It probably is already somewhere.
That could be a thing. Network sniffers. In the networking fundamentals course, when we talk about network traffic, computers on a network, accessing resources, when computers or devices communicate on the network, they put packets on the network to communicate with each other. They use a set of rules referred to as the OSI model to build these packets, and then they send these packets back and forth to communicate. These packets, once they're dumped on the wire, go all over the network to any computer. A computer looks at the packet and says, yes, this is for me, I'll use it. No, this isn't for me, I'll discard it. A network sniffer sits on the wire, takes all incoming packets, and basically assembles them. So you're able, as someone operating a network sniffer, to recreate entire sessions between a server and a client, or a client and a client.
Well, and depending on what you're sniffing, what sessions you're looking at, what traffic you're looking at, you may not even need to see whole sessions. You may just get a password.
Correct.
Correct. It's just a packet that's going to have a password in it, depending on a number of different criteria that we don't go into the depth of today, but I may need a sniffer just to get a password. That's it.
Now, that being said, sniffers are valid forms of equipment. You may use a sniffer to test bandwidth on your system. It seems like at certain points of the day, the network gets really slow. You could use a sniffer to basically figure out that some of your techs are playing online games, they're hooked playing World of Warcraft, or whatever. You have a server that comes online, a whole bunch of people are accessing it for media purposes at a certain time. So a sniffer can be a useful tool, but it can be a tool used for, back to nefarious, for nefarious purposes.
Indeed.
So let's talk about password policies. Password policies. Password complexity are the rules associated with how you're going to create your password. You see constantly people who have passwords of like 1, 2, 3, 4. They use the word password. Password complexity basically enforces rules that says you need to have certain requirements in place to put in a password. So things like you need to have an uppercase letter, you need to have some lowercase letters, you need to have some numbers, you need to have some non-alpha characters. So maybe your password has an uppercase letter, some lowercase letters, a couple numbers, and then maybe a bang or an @ sign or a hash sign in there just to kind of trick things up. If people are using dictionary, brute force crackers, this can just make it that much more difficult. Again, if somebody really wants access to your data, they'll spend enough money and they'll gain access to it. Again, what you're looking for is at an appropriate level of security that meets the standards for the type of data that you're working with.
Well, and in this context, we're talking about passwords, but we're kind of talking about it almost from a user-to-user standpoint. We're saying for you, where this pertains to the overall picture of security as we see it in the Security Fundamentals MTA course is you as an administrator, potentially as a security admin or just a network administrator on a network, are going to have to determine these options for your network. What do you want them to see? What do you want them to be able to use? Password length, one of the things on here. So this is just password complexity. We're going to go into more password options in a minute. I would say, though, for anybody out there aiming to be a security admin, becoming a security admin, keep this slide handy, because what we're going to see in the demo in a couple of slides involves password complexity, but without any detailed explanation of what that means, like this slide has on it.
Very good. So talking about password length, there's password length, age, and history. So password length is there's minimum and maximum of how many characters do you need to have in your password. And I'm sure you've all seen this if you've signed up for websites, used your passwords at work, created PINs for your bank cards, whatever. We've all seen must have a minimum of 4 or 6 characters, a maximum of 13 to 15 characters. You must use some letters, you must use some numbers, uppercase and lowercase. So these are all password requirements. So password length. Password age. Password age is how often do you have to reset your password? A minimum password age. So once you set your password, you must have it for at least this long, versus maximum password age. After this time has expired, you must change your password. Password history is how soon can you reuse a password. So if you really like, so we talked in a different module about having a dual stage password where one part of the password is static, say _plant, and then the first part of the password is dynamic, say maybe a color blue, a season, a whatever. So Christopher and I, we manage a system. We know that our common password is _plant. We don't talk about that. I've changed the password to meet requirements, and I come up to Christopher. I'm like, hey, Christopher, the password now is blue. So he knows moving forward that blue _plant is the new password. Having a history means that you cannot reuse a password for X amount of time or X amount of passwords changed.
And this relates to maximum password age. One of the sort of caveats to password management is if I'm a user and I get the little warning that says, hey, your password is going to expire in 2 weeks, do you want to change it now? Regardless of whether or not I wait 2 weeks or do it right now. If I'm on a network with an age, say 90 days, and even a password history that says I can't use the same 3, 6, 8, 10 passwords previous that I've used again, all I have to do is go in, change my password from what it is now to what it is now with a 1 at the end. And I save it, and then I log off, and then I log back on, and then I control delete, and I do the same thing again, but I put a 2 at the end. And I do that 8, 9 times, however many times the history is set for, and then I can recycle back to the first password I had. I can do that all right now.
Unless your minimum password age is set for a certain period of time that doesn't allow that immediate reset.
Exactly. I can't change my password. If it's a 90-day max, I may not be able to change it for the first 60.
Correct. Correct.
So there is a good interaction in there.
Now, it's demo time, Christopher.
It is
Yay,
indeed.
demo time. So Christopher is going to show you about view and creation of a password policy, which is what we've just talked about. Christopher, take it away.
Unless he clicks the wrong button and closes the VM that he was using.
Oh, oops.
In which case, no, he does not. There we go. Full screen, we are. Terrific. All right, password policy. This, again, is potentially a complicated topic. Of course, everything we're teaching is, so it's pretty normal. I have open, we looked at this earlier, group policy, or what's called group policy, but for the local computer, and it's actually called local computer policy, but you'll still hear the term group policy applied. In here, I can set the password policies for an individual machine. For example, I just have a server. That's all. Or even a desktop. If you want to do this at home, not in a room or in a house with other people, because you'll start changing group policies that make their computers do weird things, and they might get mad at you. We'll talk about that later. In here, I can set the policies for this computer. Here are your settings. Enforce password history, 24 remembered. Maximum age, 42 days. Minimum age, 1 day. So I have to change it after 42. I can't change it for the first 24 hours. And a 7-character minimum password length. Now, these are just for this computer. I might want to set these policies for my entire network. And that's where group policy comes in. I go into group policy management. And again, we're not going to spend the depth on this that we could. I could actually probably spend an entire day talking about group policy management. Here's my domain. Here are...
Okay, really quick, let's give the audience, the students, something to think about. If local policy is based on the computer, global policy, this global group policy, you just mentioned a domain, in what structure do they think this more global group policy is held?
What do you mean?
Well, so we're installing this group policy that affects more than one computer. So now, where do students think that that might be held? What type of structure might that be held in?
I think I get what you're saying. Where do I make this available to all of those computers on my network?
Correct.
How do they know about this?
Correct.
I'm guessing someone can come up with the answer. Someone watching the video, maybe? Any thoughts?
Could that be Active Directory?
It could
That
very well
directory
be.
structure, that global directory structure that multiple systems share that isn't local. So now we're talking about a more global system, Active Directory. So this information is stored in Active Directory to tie that back in.
So I have my domain. I have my default domain policy, which exists in every network right off the bat. And I can edit this individual policy. It's going to bring up the same thing we just saw, the same style editor that we just saw for the local computer. The difference is you can see right at the top, default domain policy. In here, I get it expanded out. Policies, Windows settings, security settings. Here are the policies we're starting with. And I think our first demo specifically is on password policies, yes?
Yes, correct. We're password policies, password complexity, length, age, and history.
Yep, all part of the same policy, luckily. So, Windows settings, security settings, account policies, password policy. Here are your starting points. Enforced password history, 24. Same